السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, welcome to the 16th and final episode of A Story and an Ayah. The reason I said it's the final episode because it's the final episode for those who are joining us for the Ramadan competition for this year, the year of Ramadan, the year 2020. For them, this will be the last episode, inshallah. So today, inshallah, I would like to share with you a verse from Surah Al-Mujadila. This is the first verse we're going to talk about today, but the following verses from Surah Al-Mujadila are associated with it and they got revealed at the same time. So what does this verse say? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قَدْ سَمِعَ اللَّهُ قَوْلَ الَّتِي تُجَادِلُكَ فِي زَوْجِهَا وَتَشْتَكِي إِلَى اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ يَسْمَعُ تَحَوُّرَكُمَا إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ بَصِيرٌ. The meaning of these verses is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talked about the origin, He said, certainly, قَدْ سَمِعَ اللَّهُ, certainly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has heard, قَوْلَ الَّتِي تُجَادِلُكَ فِي زَوْجِهَا, He has heard the speech of the one who is arguing with you, who's pleading with you, O Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is she pleading about? تُجَادِلُكَ فِي زَوْجِهَا, concerning her husband. And directs her complaint to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَتَشْكُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. So who is she directing her complaint to? It's to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and Allah hears your dialogue. وَاللَّهُ يَسْمَعُ تَحَوَّرَكُمَا إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ بَصِيرٌ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely is hearing and seeing. So what is the story behind this verse? What is the reason behind the revelation? It is mentioned in many of the books of the hadith from Aisha radiallahu anha, and even the person who's involved in the story, who's Khawla radiallahu anha, Khawla bint Tha'laba, and this story has to do with something that happened between her and her husband. So Khawla radiallahu anha, she was married to Aus ibn Samit, and alhamdulillah they had a very long life together as a husband and wife until they reached old age. Once they reach at an older age, it's natural for us as human beings that our manners sometimes change a little bit. Our abilities to be patient becomes less. So we become more impatient. We become easily bothered with things that in our younger youth or age that we're not bothered with. So what happened was that Khawla radiallahu anha, when she was at her house one time and her husband Ubadah ibn Samit had come and he had requested something from her, and so naturally she was discussing it with him. He got really upset and then he said something that before Islam the people of Jahiliyyah used to say. And when they would say it, it was an indication that they are now separated, that it's haram for them to be together. Now, by the way, this is not the case in Islam, but this is what they used to say. And so Khawla right now is in a bit of a dire situation. She's in a situation of a difficulty. Whatever he said, it means that now they can no longer be together, that they'll be separated. But there's nothing in the Quran that mentioned this situation, and so she did not know what to do. And so she gathered her belongings, her clothes, she put her clothes on, and then she went to the Prophet ﷺ, and she entered to the house of the Prophet ﷺ, and Aisha was there. Now, when she started talking to Prophet ﷺ, Aisha was a bit of a distance, and even Aisha radiallahu anha, she was saying that when she was mentioning this hadith, she said, Tabarakallah, blessed be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whose hearing encompasses everything. She was saying, I was at one side of the room, hearing some stuff and not other stuff, because of how Khawla, she was talking to the Prophet ﷺ. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala heard what Khawla was saying from above the seven heavens. And so Khawla radiallahu anha, she was explaining to the Prophet ﷺ what happened between her and her husband, Aus ibn Samit. And so the Prophet ﷺ at this point hasn't received any revelation yet of a situation like this. What is the ruling? And so the Prophet ﷺ ruled by the customs and the cultures of that time. He says, I see that, subhanallah, that you guys can't be together anymore, that whatever he had uttered has to be done, because this is the custom and the culture. And so she started pleading with the Prophet ﷺ, arguing with him. She says, I'm at an old age, I have children, if they stay with him, they will be at a state of loss because of his old age, and if they stay with me, they'll be in a state of, they will go hungry because I'm not exactly a wealthy person, in a state of poverty. And so this went back and forth until the Prophet ﷺ said, there's nothing I can say except that this is the ruling at this point. And so she turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and she said, Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I complain to you, ashku laka, I complain to you the difficulty that has befallen me. I complain to you of the situation that I'm in. And when she did that, when she turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and she complained to him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, قَدْ سَمِعَ اللَّهُ قَوْلَ الَّتِي تُجَادِلُكَ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has heard the one that is arguing with you, the one that is pleading with you. وَتَشْتَكِي إِلَى اللَّهِ, and she complains to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She's directly complaining. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed these verses, and then He revealed the solution that has to do with solving this problem. And then Islam has decreed that these words that are uttered in the time of Jahiliyyah prior to Islam are invalid, and they're not how or one of the reasons that will cause separation between a husband and a wife. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alleviated the distress of this woman, Khawla radiallahu anha. So what can we learn from the story? To be honest, I would love the story because it talks about a very important type of worship. If you notice over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to the plea of Khawla when she turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in her time of difficulty and hardship and complained to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a beautiful act of worship that unfortunately many of us are neglecting nowadays. Even sometimes even forgot about it, that when something happens to us, who do we turn and complain to? This is an act of worship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even praised the prophets for performing. And there's many stories in the Quran that mentioned how the prophets, radiallahu anhum, all of them, that when they have a certain difficulty or a difficulty has befallen them, what do? They turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They confide in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have this beautiful dialogue with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, Ayyub alayhi salam. Ayyub, who has been afflicted with sickness for 18 years, to the point that everybody has deserted him except his wife and maybe a couple of his friends. After 18 years, Ayyub alayhi salam turned to complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he did it in a very beautiful, subtle way. And he said, إِذْ نَادَى رَبُّهُ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala depicts this in the Quran, he said, إِنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الضُّرُّ وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. So this is what Ayyub said. He said, he turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he called to him and he said, indeed, O Allah, adversity has touched me. SubhanAllah, after 18 years, he says, adversity had touched me. And you are the most merciful. And you are the most merciful of the merciful. وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ وَرَاحِمِينَ. And you are the most merciful of the merciful. And so what was the result of this dua, of this one complaint that Ayyub had performed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What was the response? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَاسْتَجَبْنَا لَهُ فَكَشَفْنَا مَا بِهِ مِنْ ضُرٍّ. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and we responded to him and removed what afflicted him in adversary. Subhanallah. Once you turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and complain to him and confide in him, immediately sometimes, subhanallah, and response would come. Yaqub alayhi salam is another example. Yaqub alayhi salam, when he lost his son Yusuf, followed by another child a few years later, Yaqub alayhi salam, what did he do? He turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he said, إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. He said, I only complain my suffering and my grief to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't complain to anybody else. I only complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is He who alone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who controls everything, who is able to change things in any way He likes subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what did He do? He returned Yusuf alayhi salam and that other younger child that has been taken away from him. Even if it took a few years for that to happen. But Yaqub alayhi salam knew for sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will respond to that dua. He depended immensely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in many occasions in the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in the moments of dire need and necessity, he would turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would confide in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just one quick simple example. At the time when the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, after he went out from Mecca to do da'wah to other places, after Quraysh turned their back on the Prophet ﷺ, after they mistreated him and they have persecuted the Muslims, the Prophet ﷺ started seeking people from outside to accept his da'wah, so he went to people of Taif. And we all know how the people of Taif mistreated the Prophet ﷺ, and in fact threw stones at the blessed body of the Prophet ﷺ, causing him to bleed. And so the Prophet ﷺ, in the state of grievousness, when he was walking back to Mecca, on his foot, he turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he complained to him about his state. He asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he's telling him that there's nothing I can do anymore. and I complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the weakness that I'm in. There is nobody to support me. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately responded to that dua, and in fact sent 2 angels to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was showing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that you do have support from the heavens, even if there's no support from you in the world. And if you have the support from the heavens, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, really we don't need any support even from the support of the people in this world. So the question sometimes comes is, doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala know our state and the state of these prophets? Do they have to complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Well, what you don't realize is this complaining is an act of worship. That complaining to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows Allah that we are not arrogant, that we are ready to humble ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's an expression of our dependence and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is an act of worship that should be dedicated only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most compassionate, the most merciful, the most powerful. That is why the Prophets radiallahu anhum complained to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their hardship and difficulties that befell them, and did not complain to anybody else. Is because all else are dependent to Allah subhanahu, are dependent upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whoever we're going to complain to himself is also dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and can never help without the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so they directly went to the source, the creator of all things. Complaining to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also establishes this beautiful relationship between the servant and his Lord. A beautiful dialogue that is established. Something that we, if we do, will bring to us a sense of tranquility, a sense of peace, because we know the one who had listened to us is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, how often do we have this conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We should try to practice this more often. It really does bring a sense of tranquility and assurance, because we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that when my servant asks you, O Muhammad, about me, then what? Then I am near. Inform them that I am near. I respond to the invocation, to the dua of the person who's supplicating to me. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is close, and He does hear us. Similar to how He heard Khawla, similar to how He knows the situation of Khalwa and the prophets of Ayyub and Yaqub and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah knows, but we just have to express our need to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so when difficulties overwhelm us, and when sadness overpowers us, and when our sins really weigh down on us, and we need to turn to someone, we should throw ourselves at the doorsteps of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to express to Him our need and tell Him our difficulty and our hardship and talk to Him and confide in Him. And if we do that, surely insha'Allah, the response will come very soon. Ask Allah Azza wa Jalla, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who truly have this beautiful conversation, a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we can find only in Him, and we trust Him. Afterwards, we can seek help of others because we know we're depending on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whomever helps us afterwards is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put them in a place to provide for us. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to alleviate our stress and hardship and our sadness, and to give us blessings and barakah in our wealth, in our children, in our family, and our health, and in our everything that we're in, and to prolong our health and our sense of security and safety that we live in. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this blessed month to make us among those who are able to draw closer to Him, so that He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will be pleased with us and forgive us in this world and the hereafter. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallah bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.